Earlier this year, a small film from Latvia managed an impressive feat when it won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. For years, the category was usually won by big studio productions and movies directed by celebrated auteur filmmakers, so it was quite remarkable to see Flow, a low-budget film and a genuine independent production, receive this honor. What led to this victory? Well, let's first look at the movie itself. Flow is directed by Gin Sipilodis and centers on a group of animals who travel through a flooded world. They are just trying to survive, and through that journey, we see them make multiple decisions and befriend one another. I think this is a wonderful movie that captured my interest throughout the entire runtime, and part of what especially stood out to me was how naturalistic the animals acted. This felt like how an actual cat, dog, lemur, capybara, and other animals would react to being in this situation. The animators did a fantastic job of getting little nuances in their behavior down, and done entirely without dialogue. Personally, I often love when movies use as little dialogue as possible, taking advantage of film being a visual medium, so Flow was right up my alley. The way the camera swoops through the places the animals go through is remarkable and really puts you into that world. It should be known the movie was animated entirely on open source software, namely Blender, which is certainly an inspiration to many an animator out there who wants to create their own stories. But those are my own thoughts on Flow. Why did Academy voters fall in love with it? Well, one important thing to note when discussing the Oscars over the past number of years is how the membership has changed. There has been a real effort on the Academy's part to reflect the broader filmmaking community and invite younger and more international people into the membership. This has changed the demographics in a significant way, and we've seen that in a lot of recent winners that maybe would not have taken home Oscars 10 years ago. For 2 years in a row, two films, primarily not in English, competed against each other in the Best Picture category, which would have been unthinkable before. With its lack of dialogue, Flow has a universality that allows it to travel everywhere and appeal to audiences around the world. Plus, everyone knows what cats and dogs are like, and so it's very accessible. The artistry is also something that will be widely admired by voters. Flow first received attention when it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and was then shown at the Annecy Animation Festival and other film festivals where it continued to generate buzz and interest. Janus Films, which is also the parent company of the Criterion Collection, picked up the American distribution rights, and in recent years, they've become the home for quite a number of eclectic international films. While they may not have the same public name recognition or Oscar track record as A24 or Neon, Janus has still managed to do well for themselves as an indie distributor, and of course their work in restoring classic films and movies by notable auteurs like Jim Jarmusch and David Lynch. Janus even previously received a Best Picture nomination for the Japanese film Drive My Car. So with the festival attention, critical acclaim, and other recognition Flow received, they were able to build up a lot of attention for the movie. And it was not just critics groups who recognized the film. Flow was nominated by the BAFTAs, the Producers Guild, the Editors Guild, and the Art Directors Guild in their respective animation categories, along with 3 Annie Award nominations for Best Independent Animated Feature, Best Directing, and Best Writing. So there was clearly wide industry support for this film. Meanwhile, Flow won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Feature, which a lot of people saw as a possible indication it could win the Oscar. Not me, though. I actually don't factor the Globes into my Oscar predictions because the organization that votes for them does not share membership with the Academy like the Guilds and BAFTAs do. And while there's certainly times when they agree on the winners, they also diverge in several cases. At the same Globe ceremony where Flow won, Anora left empty-handed. And yet Anora ended up doing incredibly well at the Oscars, including winning Best Picture. Going into the Oscar ceremony, it appeared the favorite was The Wild Robot. It won the Producers Guild Award, which can often be a good predictor for the Oscar. Additionally, The Wild Robot won an Art Directors Guild Award and 4 awards from the Visual Effects Society, although the latter organization did not nominate Flow anywhere. It was also nominated for Best Original Score and Best Sound at the Oscars, which seemed to indicate support for the movie across multiple branches, although Flow did get an additional nomination for Best International Feature. The BAFTAs, meanwhile, went with Wallace & Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, but that was not really a shock, as Wallace & Gromit are a national treasure in the UK. Curse of the Were-Rabbit even won Best British Film at the BAFTAs before they added an animated film category. Interesting enough, the Editors Guild decided to have their ceremony after the Oscars instead of before. The Wild Robot ended up winning there too, so if they announced their winners earlier, you would have seen even more folks predicting a Wild Robot win at the Oscars. Ultimately, Flow was victorious, which can certainly be argued suggests a shift in the Academy membership's taste, as explained by my mentioning earlier that it's gotten younger and more international. When Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio won, that was chalked up to del Toro becoming an Academy darling the past number of years. The Boy and the Heron winning was seen as a way to honor Hayao Miyazaki, who's also widely respected within the film industry. Flow was made by largely unknown filmmakers who most of the membership had probably never heard of before, which makes its victory all the more amazing. I think it became the passion pick as many of the people who watched Flow fell in love with that cat and his animal companions. Of course, it's worth pointing out how competitive that year was for animated features. Like I mentioned, The Wild Robot won plenty of recognition during the award season. Wallace and Gromit also probably got a lot of votes, not only from the British bloc, but probably plenty of the American voters and other parts of the international membership, as those characters have always been loved by the Academy. Inside Out 2 was very well received and its box office was remarkable, although the record-breaking gross might have been seen as its reward, and sequels not in the Toy Story franchise have struggled to win this category. And despite being the least likely to win among the nominees, Memoir of a Snail also had its fans. So I think all the nominees got their fair share of votes from the membership. Flo just happened to be the one to receive the most. Now, a common belief people have held for years is that Academy voters just let their children decide who gets to win in the animated feature category. While there's certainly members who probably do that, I'm not sure how widespread it is and how much this has impacted the winners. For example, while Happy Feet was certainly a well-liked movie by children in 2006, I would think Cars would be the preferred pick of many children, especially when taking the toy sales into account. And how many children preferred Brave over Wreck-It Ralph? After The Boy and the Heron won, and now Flo, a lot of people feel like less children are being handed their parents' Oscar ballots. Although with that said, I think Flo is absolutely a movie that would appeal to children. I know there are probably those who think they won't be interested in a film about dialogue, but I think that's kind of insulting towards them, and also ignores the history of popular animated characters who speak little to no actual dialogue. Who is by far the most popular character in Ice Age? It's Scrat, a squirrel who only communicates and squeaks and screams. Children love the Minions, who speak primarily in gibberish words. Then there are the wide variety of beloved animated shows and shorts that largely lack dialogue, like Tom and Jerry, Shaun the Sheep, and Pingu. Children have a real understanding of visual language and are able to understand what a character is thinking through their expressions and physical actions. I think you could even show a movie like Charlie Chaplin's The Kid to most children, and they would be enraptured. So who's to say there were not still Academy voters who screened the Best Animated Feature nominees for their children, and they picked Flo as their favorite? Another common thing people have said about the category for years is that Disney is the obvious favorite. Even in years where there was a clear frontrunner that swept the Precursor Awards, there were people online who still assumed the Disney-produced film would win the Oscar. I saw this with Incredibles 2, despite Into the Spider-Verse winning almost every animation award under the sun that year, and with Turning Red, even though Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio won every single major animation prize leading into the Oscar ceremony. And yes, Disney has won this category a lot, whether it's with a Pixar production or from Walt Disney Animation Studios. Disney even handled the original North American distribution of Spirited Away. However, a lot of the Disney movies that won were still wonderful choices, like Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, WALL-E, Frozen, Zootopia, and the third and fourth Toy Story films. And while yes, there are years where I would have personally picked something else, I don't begrudge the Disney film winning. But if I was an Academy voter, Flo would have gotten my vote for Best Animated Feature. Clearly I'm not the only one who felt that way. A lot of people who've watched that film come away impressed with the artistry, storytelling, and the beauty of what Ginzaboloudis and his team created. And yes, it also signaled a willingness from voters to award something in this category beyond a big studio or well-known filmmaker. For a while, the Best Animated Feature category was usually the easiest to predict. However, it's become a real race in the past number of years, which really speaks to the impressive variety of films nominated and the rise of these independent artists getting worldwide recognition in the field of animation. See you next time.